Hello, fellow grievers. And this episode, we're going to talk about how emotions can affect you differently throughout the month or even the day or the year. So, welcome back, fellow grievers. And this episode, I saw somebody post something. I think I've seen it before, but I just saw it recently again where somebody was like, hey, as a woman, like when you get your period, like, do you find that grieving is more intense? Like you just feel more sad, things are more triggering, you're more upset. And I wanted to do this episode because yes, like the answer is yes, I have found that. And I think it's pretty common, right? Because like even when we are just on our when we're still having our cycle, right? Like when we as a female, if you are in those years where you are having your period, there are days where you're more, I want to say, delicate about certain things, right? And it's just because there's different hormones fluctuating throughout your body. But then when you have grief, it's certainly magnified a lot. And so I want to talk a little bit about that and some things that I do to cope with that and to help with that. And I do also want to say it wasn't every month, right? It was typically when my period would line up with days that there was a death anniversary coming up, or one of my parents would have been their birthdays, or even if my child had like a birthday or an event coming up, and it was like it just made me realize even more how sad I was that they weren't here to experience that event or that celebration with my child, with us. And so that's really when it would get magnified, when it would line up with some death anniversary or event or celebration or something where I would be missing my parents more, right? Like a holiday. And sometimes it wasn't um aligned with a different celebration or event. But what I found is as I was paying attention to it and had awareness of, oh, this is happening, like it typically was happening those months again, where my period would line up with some sort of celebration or event where I was missing my parents to begin with, and then it would just magnify more. I also want to say for any men that are listening, like for one, I think it's good information to have about the females in your life. But also, I don't know. I don't know how true this is, but I've heard recently that for men, really, they have like a cycle in their body that is 24 hours, right? So for them, they might have certain times throughout the day where, like, okay, the afternoon, evening is really when most people kind of hit a lull in the day. And so for a man, it's more intense or magnified because that's kind of their flow of their life. And so I've heard that for men, their cycle is 24 hours, whereas for women, ours is like 28 days approximately. Which makes sense, right? Because pretty much everything in life and how God set up the world is that there's different seasons, there's different, right? We have days, right? Like the earth rotates, we have days. So that's kind of a cycle in a sense. And then we have years where it's set up of like the different seasons. So that's also a cycle. And everything's a little bit different. So it makes sense that as humans, males and females who are also different would have different ways that their body kind of has a natural cycle. But again, I'm not sure on the science on that. I haven't looked too far into it. I just saw, I don't know, some quote unquote expert saying this on, I don't know, a podcast or just a clip of a podcast. So again, not sure on the scientific evidence of that, but it does make some sense. So I just wanted to talk a little bit again about some tips or tricks that I have done to help with when that extra sadness hits. And I also want to say for women, like just because you are not having your period, you're not ovulating, like if you are perimenopause or postmenopause, menopausal, like our bodies still go in cycles, why to me it made sense where they said males also kind of have a cycle. So our body still kind of holds on to that or kind of fluctuates, right? So you might want to jot down in a planner on a notebook, like what days to kind of see, oh, like this is where my cycle is at, right? Because we still have these hormones that are in our body, the yes, they're less, but we still have those. And so to notice what your pattern is and where you are at kind of in your quote unquote cycle without having a very obvious cycle. So a few things that I have noticed or done, and the very first thing that I realized, and I think I heard another coach say this about something else, like, when she's like, oh, when I'm on my period, like, I just know it's gonna, like, the really rough, hard days are gonna last 2 or 3 days. And that really helped me to be like, oh, yeah, because again, our brain wants us to say, this is going to last forever. Everything feels miserable. You're never going to get out of this. This is just the way life is, right? Like, and again, with those hormones going and then with grief kind of coming in, it just is so much more magnified. And so when I can remind myself, like, okay, remember, like, we have the next 24 hours, which are going to be the roughest ones of this month. And then from that information, again, I just like to remind myself of that information throughout that day. Remember, like, okay, this is gonna be the hardest day. We have a few hours left. Tomorrow will be a little better. And it is, right? Like for me, typically there's one day that's pretty intense, severe, and there's 2 days around that day that are not great, but they're not as intense as that one day. So I just remind myself of that. Like, I can do hard things. Remember, like, it's only going to last for the next, I don't know, 48, 72 hours, right? Kind of have a little countdown of it in my mind. And while that is happening, I also make sure that I have set myself up to just care for myself and love myself through those few days. So for me, I like to exercise. It helps me have mental clarity. It helps me feel so much better. And those few days, I try not to really do like an intense exercise because my body is just tired. But I try to be like, okay, but can I make sure I get water? Can I get at least 40 ounces of water today? Can I get a nap in today? A lot of times I'll plan naps around those few days. Or I'll just plan like a lighter day if possible. Sometimes that's not possible. But if it's a day where like I have to do a lot of running, I'm doing a lot of things, I make sure that when I have a moment that I am really sitting and resting. And for me, resting, like a lot of times my brain wants to say like resting is scrolling on Facebook, but I know it's not because that makes me more tired. I feel more drained. It sucks the energy from me. So a lot of times I'll try to bring a book along or like do like a prayer meditation. I have like a rosary meditation I listen to just in those few little snippets of time throughout a busier day, just to kind of be like, okay, like I'm safe, I'm loved, like I'm taken care of. And I try to make sure that, especially on that one hard day that like I get ahead of the game with my pain medication and or like a heating pad, that kind of stuff. So I try to stay on top of the game that way and not let the busyness of the day get me out of taking care of myself. So those are a few kind of physical things. But again, on the mental side, our brain likes to tell us that this is going to last forever, that we're trapped here, everything is horrible, everything is failing, all the ways that we are failing. And I just look at that and it's like, okay, I'm upset about this thing my husband did. And I'm still not very good about like holding my tongue and not saying it. If I do say it, I'm like, well, why did you not do the dishes? And then you didn't clean them afterwards, and look at all the stuff all around you. Look at how you never help with anything, right? And typically I try not to say that, but most of the time I end up saying those things. I'll say them out loud, but then I'll come back and like, I am sorry. I am lashing out. I am having a really hard time. I really need a hug right now. Can you give me a hug? Or maybe I need some quiet time. Or maybe I want to go do an activity to get my mind off things, right? Like communicating that to the people around you is important. And there have been times too where I tell my kids, like, I'm not feeling good today. I'm having a really hard day. My husband will be like, Mom's just really sad today. They give me extra hugs and kisses too. And noticing that, but also noticing how much I need to take care of myself within how I don't feel good. Another thing too is again, I've really noticed how when my period aligns with like death anniversaries or birthdays of my parents or just different things. I try to pay really close attention to when those anniversaries and days are coming up and if I'm going to be on my period or not. Because then I know, okay, like I'm going to have plan A. Plan A is I'm just going to stay in bed. I'm going to read. I'm going to have my, few drinks that I like to drink, maybe hot chocolate or ice water or an extra coffee that day. Like I'm going to have those things. Like I'm going to just kind of check out for the day. That's plan A. Plan B might be, okay, if I'm feeling a little bit okay, I'm going to take care of myself in the way that's maybe I will make supper and make the meals. I maybe we'll just go around the table sharing our favorite memory of my parents. But not anything over the top, but a little bit calmer and more delicate. And then plan C could be like, okay, like if I'm up to it, I want to go get ice cream in memory of my dad, and then I want to go to the park and I want to release balloons or like whatever it might be, a little bit more um a next level up of like energy if I have that. But again, I like to look at that and really pay attention to that to know, okay, this is coming up. These dates are going to align with these dates. And communicating that again to the people around me has been key, specifically my husband, to be like, okay, I'm going to have a really rough couple days. Please know that the things that I say, like I don't mean them. Um, But I just want you to listen, right? I don't need you to fix me. I don't need you to dismiss me. I just want you to listen. And at the end, just give me a hug, right? Like, and just let me cry. And communicating that has really been good for me, for my husband, so he knows what to do. So I'm not just like snapping at him and he's like trying to fix it. And then I snap at him again. He's like, well, what do you want from me? Right? Like, really communicating what I need. And it really depends too on again, your personality. Maybe you're a very outgoing person, and so for you, sitting in a room reading a book sounds horrible. Maybe you're like, no, I really want to be around my friends, and I want to communicate to them, like, hey, I'm really having a sad day. I don't want to talk about it, but if I start crying, just know I just need a hug, right? Like, just communicating those things, I think, is really important and helps us then not only know what's going on with us, the more we try to communicate to others, it's like, okay, what words do I use? How do I describe how I'm feeling? How can I say what I really need in this moment? Every time I look at that, I'm like, how do I communicate that to somebody else? It really makes me pause and be aware of what's even going on in my own body so I can communicate that to somebody else. And that is the biggest key. That is what I want you guys to go as a takeaway is really to be like, be more in tune with ourselves on what's going on, what our needs are, and even if we're like, okay, I can't take a nap today, but knowing I really would have used a nap today, my body's at a place where I'm just physically drained, I'm in pain, I feel like just on edge to begin with. Okay, I can't get a nap, but I'm going to make sure that I'm in bed by 9 o'clock tonight. And I'm going to communicate what that looks like to get me in bed by 9 o'clock, right? So, that awareness is really, really important as we are healing, not only like, as a woman, like on those, especially those few days that are really heavy on your cycle, like we're healing that way, but also emotionally and mentally, we are also healing with the grief. So really taking care of ourselves and being aware of not pushing ourselves too hard, but really loving ourselves through that. So I hope this was helpful. And as always, you guys can go to catholicgriefcoach.com and book a free consult call. And in the next few months coming up, I'm going to be partnering with somebody to do a Catholic Grief Summit. So you'll be hearing me talk about more of that. That's going to be in about mid-September coming up. So if you want to have more information on that or get on my email list, you can email me at catholicgriefcoach@outlook.com, or I'll try to get a pop-up on my webpage soon about that once we get more put together on that so people can be added to the email list to get more information. So just know that's coming up. I'm really excited about that. I think that'll be super amazing for everybody. And as always, I am praying for you guys and you are loved. We will take the next steps together. God bless.